Sure. Hi. I have never done live before, so we'll get through this together, hopefully. So I'm Amanda, and since I was about 18 years old, I have been helping people get healthy in a number of ways. I started off in the health and fitness industry, helping people get fit and helping them plan meals and kind of working through life in that aspect because it was something that always helped me get through. When I started really struggling because of my abusive ex, who is the father of my oldest son, he began abusing me during my pregnancy, and it only got worse. He tried to take my son away from me. He had me held in his home. He has really just done everything, including kind of rewriting history. And at this point, my oldest son is estranged from me. From birth, actually from the womb, I was hated by my mother. She lied my entire life about my father, even though I knew that the father of my siblings was not my father. I only found out less than 10 years ago that that was true my entire life. She used me, she prostituted me, and my older sisters. It got one of my sisters a college education. It got another sister a lot of material things, but one of my sisters has never learned how to function on her own. She was into very unhealthy relationships. Her last one was very abusive, which she was in for 20 years and had 3 children. My other sister is like a perfectionist, and they remain publicly, I guess, in denial of all of these abuses, but have privately confirmed all of them. So if you've come from a toxic family, you probably understand and recognize some of these behaviors and actions and the consequences that comes from being in an abusive and toxic situation for a long time. And frankly, none of this made a lot of sense in my life for most of my life. I went very fast through life. I was kicked out of my house when I was 17 years old. It ended up with me having to get a GED because I was not able to complete my education because I'd been in an international baccalaureate program that was not offered other places, even though I had fulfilled all of my requirements. My mother, the woman who gave birth to me, has set me up to fail. Actually, most of her kids, it's a form of control, coercive control. My ex is equally guilty of the exact same behavior. My mom tried to kidnap one of my sons. When I wouldn't allow that, she tried to take his social security number in order to have financial gain from him, which is what she's done with basically every child she's ever touched. She dehumanizes, she monetizes, and objectifies, especially women. She did it with her siblings. She did it with her biological children. She's done it with her grandchildren. And she did it with foster children and re-abused them to the point that even though she is a mental health professional, she has a lifetime ban from fostering children, which, if you know anything about the foster system, is very hard to do. So I really started understanding sociopathy, psychopathology, and narcissistic abuse about 10 years ago. At age 40, there was a breakthrough because of the behaviors of one of my sisters while I was at her house one day. That incident that I took to my psychiatrist at the time changed everything in my life and the entire course of my life. I am deeply blessed and fortunate that I have a very healthy husband who is amazing, who has carried me through all of this, who made me realize like how really messed up all of this stuff was, and has literally walked with me. As my mental health failed, my physical health began failing as well. I'd spent all my life very lean as an athlete across many genres of sports and athletics, including martial arts. I was a fitness instructor, a group instructor, nutritionist. I really did everything for many years: kickboxing, boxing, CrossFit. And after the birth of my youngest son, it was a very traumatic birth where he and I both nearly died from losing so much blood. We had a placental abruption. My body began to let loose all of the pain and trauma that had been stored in it for so long, and I just could no longer recover. I've been diagnosed with many autoimmune and nervous system disorders. At one point, a very few years ago, I had a specialist for literally every part of my body. At my highest, although I'd never been overweight, I'd always been underweight and very lean. A few years ago, my weight escalated to 260 pounds. I have lost nearly all of that back down to what I consider my normal size in a little over a year, as my husband and I made the decision to move away from where we had been in order to basically allow myself and my youngest son to get healthy. And in that time, our life has totally changed into something miraculously beautiful and healthy. And in addition to that, our youngest son has gone from really struggling in a lot of different ways to going beyond thriving. He is flying right now. He is a straight A student. He's an athlete in many different capacities. My other kids were also athletes and were excellent students who unfortunately were set up to fail. They're both, my older kids are beautiful and they're brilliant. So all of this I've taken, and instead of now just helping in the physical and nutritional aspect, which is very important, I really started learning so much more about the mental health care in that aspect. I dove into trainings, especially under the pioneers in terms of trauma-informed care, PTSD, complex PTSD, different types of especially early childhood abuse and traumas that have happened. And through the beautiful care of not just a medical team, but a very strong mental health team that included a very amazing psychiatrist, a psychologist, 2 therapists, and then another psychiatrist who only dealt with helping me in terms of medication. I was able to have this really great kind of entire body healing happen to me. And because of my background of helping people in terms of fitness and nutrition, I was able to combine that with the mental health care that I was learning as well. So that has led to me having an incredible number of great certifications, including international certifications. I'm writing more these days. I'm still helping people in fitness and nutrition, and a lot of it is now geared towards more of trauma healing movements, breath work, mindset, meditation. So all of this combined together has brought me this really great mix of super diverse people who I've not just been able to work with, but I've been able to be introduced to a number of people who have become clients and friends of mine. And because, especially in the United States, mental health care still carries a great deal of stigma to it, as well as things that are very normalized by people who have been through extremely traumatic situations, such as dissociation, which is a way that our mind protects us when we are in really brutally abusive or overly traumatic situations. Being on mental health meds, having a mental health diagnosis, that almost all of it is rooted in kind of these early life traumas because of the impact that it has on us. So trauma is not the things that happen to us. What trauma is what happens inside of us because of the things that happen to us. In my case, the terrible deeds and actions of my mother, I was never able to talk about. We weren't raised in a house of truth and honesty, and that stands true today. We were raised in a house of lies and more lies, of the obligation to keep secrets. It was the only way that we stayed protected, with a mother who never honored another woman or marriage. Everyone that she met was a married man, and she interrupted many, and disrupted many marriages and many families. So we were kind of led by that terrible example. On top of that, my mother also abused us through the use of religion. So she was Jehovah's Witness for a while, which is deemed by many people to be a cult. It's a religion that functions in secrecy, as many people know. It is a religion that doesn't even go to or trust authorities with things like rape, sexual assault, molestation, and it has harmed many people. She has gone back to that religion many times, but our primary molester, whom my mother was also sleeping with, was he was actually the husband of somebody who was a lead pastor, I believe they're called, in the United Methodist Church. He had been fired as a teacher because he had been caught sexually assaulting and abusing young women in the classroom. And my mother knew this and still chose to put us directly into the hands of this man over and over and over. We began consuming alcohol when we were very young. My mother, before I was even in kindergarten, blamed all the problems in her life on me, projected everything that she was doing onto me. And the terminology is called scapegoat, which is something I also learned not too many years ago, which is also very, very common in any dysfunctional, unhealthy, in particularly abusive, narcissistic abusive relationship or family. And this is something that's continued. I made the very difficult decision after my mom had, in a very miraculous interaction, actually admitted some of these things to me. I went no contact with her. And then a few years later, after some incidents with my sisters, which included being maliciously and falsely accused of things, having my brother completely verbally attack and abuse my oldest son, and his daughter telling my son about it, fortunately. my kids being lied to and many other things, I went no contact with my siblings as well. And that has been the healthiest thing that I could do. This is not necessarily the only option for people, but for me, and myself and my kids, that's what it has looked like in order to finally be at a place of safety and to begin healing. A lot of the sexual aspects in terms of molestation, I lived in a home of really gross incestuous encounters as well. And while it's been denied, a lot of that has repeated itself. And so one thing that we talk about in terms of mental health is the role that patterns take. And so these patterns haven't changed. I have a sibling who knowingly married into a family with a convicted pedophile. I have a sibling who continued their incestuous ways. I found out not too very long ago that it was with one of my children and one of their children. And that child also revealed to myself and my husband that those incestuous patterns had continued with them, and then their child as well. And then another sibling, so all of my siblings, this is something that's continued with them, and then the next generation as well. So patterns are something that are very indicative of the reality of the truth of what happened, especially in young childhood. And because there is like a pact of secrecy, a lack of accountability for any of the actions and behaviors that have happened, because there is just a standard of dishonesty. It takes a strong person not just to admit them, but to confront them in order to break those patterns. So part of my decision to go non-contact had to do with the lack of willingness of the people who I love and care very much about continuing to put their own children in harm's way, and then that continuing for their children's children as well. So all of this leads me to kind of what am I doing and why am I doing this live? Part of the reason I'm doing this live is because I haven't done it before, but also because the more I've shared my story, especially with writing, the more questions I've answered, the more people have reached out. I'm a really firm believer that everyone has the right to heal and to be healthy. Everyone has a right to be heard and to be seen and cared about and loved. Everyone has a right to be believed and to have their story put out there and embraced and held as truth, so that they can begin to heal their body and their mind, so that they can break patterns and change everything that happens with the future generations. And so I offer a lot of what I do at no charge. So the more I'm able to do these, I love you too. And the more I'm able to do these types of engagements, the more people are able to heal, the more people are able to feel like they're part of community. A big thing that's happening, especially right now in the United States, is that there is an epidemic of isolation and loneliness. Many people have no friends or no one that they feel like they can trust, or no part of community. And when I was very sick, and the abuse was so much for me, and my body was blowing up, and I became paranoid. I became agoraphobic. I didn't just not leave my house. I almost never left my bedroom or my bed. And if you know me, I'm super outgoing. I was going all of the time. I was very active. I volunteered. I was involved with so many things, and I disappeared. I stopped living life. My kids didn't know me anymore. My husband didn't recognize me. I didn't engage with hardly anyone. A little over 3 years ago, I completely got rid of all social media. It was all just too much for me. And so re-engaging now on this level, I have found it is not just beneficial for me, but the number of people that I'm able to touch, the greater communities I'm able to build that start really weaving together the ability or the possibility even for healing is it is life changing in really radical ways. And I think that we all should be able to have that in our lives. So I want to do more of this. I want to talk more about my story, not because I think my story is special, not because it's better or worse or more extreme, but because I was exposed to so many different types of abuses. It allows me to hold hands with people and walk them through and give them hope that not only can they get through it, they can fully heal and recover. And it's beyond possible, like it's tangible. And I personally am living proof of that. I've worked with victims of incest, of rape, of molestation, of trafficking, of sex trafficking, of many, many different backgrounds. I have spoken not only all over the United States, but I've spoken internationally and shared my story. I started a nonprofit because I recognized that there was a need for people to be nurtured in the current life that we're living. And so I'm a huge believer that the more that we can give from what we have experienced, the stronger we become, not just as humans and as individuals, but collectively. That starts with small community and it builds out. And I'm a believer in that. I want to share the things that I know in terms of physical movement, stretches, yoga especially, of breath work. One thing that was really shocking to me was that a number of years ago, I was actually diagnosed with COPD, with advanced asthma. I was on different medications for my lungs and inhalers and all of this stuff, and had become accustomed to holding my breath from the constant abuse and stress that I was under. Breath work is something that has helped my body restore in such a really beautiful way. And so I want to share these. I want to share interviews and stories with other people who have endured what can seem like the impossible or the unimaginable or the unbelievable, so that there is a greater hope that is being built, so that we're not isolating and feeling like we're permanently broken, because I don't think that we are. I think that people aren't aware of the drastic rise in narcissistic abuse, especially in the United States, and the impact that that has on people, that narcissistic abuse itself lends to at least 10 other mental health diagnoses because of how extreme the abuse is. I want other people to know that they can talk to and communicate with their kids and share this stuff with them. I didn't do that with my older boys, and it meant that my voice didn't belong to me, it belonged to my abusers. And I know now how to navigate that. And I just think that the more we keep doing this together and the more we keep healing together, the stronger we get collectively. And the strength then just keeps going further and further. So as I get questions about my relationship with my kids, or what I eat, or what I drink, or movements that have helped me to move the trauma out of my body, activities that I do that not just have worked with me or for me, but that I use on clients that I have or that friends use in order to continue to successfully navigate and have a healthy outlet to do with things that they once believed that they could and would never overcome. I guess I believe just in the beauty of hope and of healing, and that we are able to do it in such a really great, easy way that happens faster, I think, than what people believe. And I want to keep doing that as I continue to develop healing retreats for women and expand my practice and expand writing and getting published and things like that. I want this to be available to as many people as possible, to people who don't feel like they can share or don't feel like they want the stigma of medicines or talking to a therapist or any of those things. And I want it to be just completely accessible. So I'll be on Facebook and on Instagram, on YouTube. And it took me a while to develop and to really make sure I was speaking with my own healthcare team, as well as mentors that I've been really very blessed and honored to study under, so that it is radically available, and that the people who I learn from are also involved in making that available. So that's what we're going to do, and that's how we're going to do it. And hopefully I'll see you all soon. And if nothing else, I'll see you when I put more videos out. I hope you all have a great night. Mwah.